I'm not just speaking to people who are good right now. I'm speaking to everybody. Like, I wasn't good for a long time.
Okay.
Many people who are listening to this are probably, I was worse off than they are right now. And that kind of degradation that you're always feeling of, oh, I'm not good enough, it's bullshit, and it will handicap you from doing anything good.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Jim Cummings wrote, directed, and acted in the short film Thunder Road, which won the Grand Jury Prize for Shorts at the 2016 Sundance Film Festival. He then turned Thunder Road into a feature, which won the Grand Jury Prize at last year's South by Southwest Film Festival. Then he made the unorthodox but ultimately wise choice to self-distribute the feature. And a special engagement at the Alamo Drafthouse brought him to New York, which is where he sat down with me to talk about the work.
I heard that even the writing of Thunder Road was kind of seeped in performance. And I want you to talk about that first.
Yeah. So a lot of the writing takes place in a room like this with a microphone, and it's me acting it out a lot. I don't always record it, but I'll have my iPhone and the voice memo app, and I'll just run scenes 100 times. And I'll do it as many ways as I possibly can, thinking about how people would respond to these things out loud. It's always out loud to understand how dialogue comes out of human vocal cords. It's never me sitting down on a laptop and hearing voices in my head and then typing that out. It all has to be done out loud. And I find that the writing, or the dialogue at least, becomes more authentic that way, where I'm like putting myself into a situation 100 times to find the best improv, and then writing down the best improv, and then that becomes the script. It was always done like that. When I was writing the short film, I had a commute for 45 minutes to work, and I was able to rehearse 3 times on the way to work and 3 times on the way home. And I had the voice memo app on my iPhone, and whenever I came up with something good, I would go, oh, that's good. And then I record it, and then later that night transcribe that cleverness into screenplay format.
So it's always, and when you're writing the feature, it's every character.
Yeah.
Not just your character, you're the center character, but every single other character. When you get on set then, and you've cast these people, was it like, there's my baby that I was in the little room with, and now the baby is in those arms? So
no. So very luckily, I have a Zoom recorder as well, and I record the screenplay as a podcast. So instead of doing like the scene headings of interior police station day, I'll say, at the police station, Jim walks in, and it becomes this audiobook podcast version of the screenplay, and I put in music and sound design. So before anybody on the cast or crew shows up on set, they've been able to hear the movie however many times they want. And so like, all of the actors and the crew have a sensibility of the cadence of the scene, how I'm imagining the punchlines, all of that stuff. And then they raise the bar. But it's like, I think that English is so complex and language is so complex that just handing written word to people, it's so easy to misinterpret. I say, if it's easy to misinterpret a text message, it's easy to misinterpret a screenplay. So don't let people do that. And a lot of my comedy and drama is based on delivery. It's all performance. So like, it's very easy to misunderstand. And if you're able to hear me do it once, like with any of the actors, they go, oh, I get it. Okay, cool. And then they make it better. It's a really wonderful technique that I've used to just get everybody on the same page. And we couldn't afford not to do that because the movie, we shot it in 14 days and we didn't have any money. So it was like, it had to be done. Everybody had to be on the same page by the time we landed on set.
In a way, this is like a safe way. That's the wrong word. This is almost like an acceptable way to give an actor a line reading.
Yeah, I always
where they can do it at like they listen to it before they get to the set. They hear how you want it done.
Yeah, I know that that's a faux pas amongst many directors, especially in theater and things like that. And usually when you're forcing somebody to find the thing, like if you're shooting an improv scene, if you're shooting a long take of somebody doing something, and you really want authenticity, that's great. And you shouldn't line read, and you should really get this person to deliver it how they do it. But we do so much rehearsal anyway, so it's like I do it, and then they understand how I'm imagining it, and then we actualize memorize it through rehearsal. So like,
Yeah.
I have no problem with line reading because I'm an actor, and sometimes people just don't get the punchlines, and I was like, no, I think that there has to be a gap here. And then instead of just talking to them about that gap of like, between lines, I'm just like, why can't I just say it? Like, why are there these rules that you can't say the thing or perform the thing? Yeah. It's crazy making.
I mean, but that's also because, I think you just touched on it, there is a certain style you're going for here in performance. You're not going for stark realism here.
Right.
But is there roots in something that influenced you, performance-wise?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's all done out loud when we're writing it. So like it's all how I imagine, it's my biology reacting to the stimuli of the dialogue, and then I have to write a line that functions for this character, or I'm thinking about the comedy and drama of this, and how do we make something that's very interesting both in comedy and drama for these moments. But when it comes to like actual personal influence, yeah, you're right, it's not reality. I have a Southern accent. I'm like this cop. I'm a victim of grief. I've never lost anybody very, very close to me. I don't have any children, but my sisters have children, and so I kind of base my understanding of child rearing from that. No, I don't know. I'm a divorcee, and that's probably it. That's probably the closest thing to reality for me, for the character.
And I'm thinking about like a scene like when you left your phone in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. There's this heightened insanity to his mania.
Yeah.
That is fascinating. Like somebody said Buster Keaton on
meth.
On meth.
Isn't that funny? Well, for that scene, yeah, because he's like a little drunk and then also very frantic. So like that was one of the most tragic poems I ever read. So it's kind of based on this idea that it always makes me cry for whatever reason. But it's a story. It's a poem called The Illiterate, and it's about this guy who gets a letter and he can't read, and his wife isn't home yet, and so he gets this letter from the mailman. And he has no idea what it is. He doesn't know if it's his brother who's died at war or if one of his parents has passed away. And so he has this meltdown, imagining everything in his life that's going wrong, that could go wrong, until his wife comes home and says something like, no, it's innocuous. It's not that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. And having your phone locked in the car, and the guy says, pick up your phone, you need to pick up your phone. And he's like, oh, it must be something serious. And then I can't get to my phone. And I'm like, what is it? And then the cop guy is like, I don't know, they just told me to tell you to pick up your phone. And then it's like, oh my God! Like that kind of stress everybody can relate to. And and it's I don't know, like I just wanted to have him in this really stressful moment, this like human stressful moment. And it's a funny and comedic and dramatic way to exhibit a part of the plot.
How did you handle like 14 days being the director of this thing that is so performance centered?
Yeah.
And the center of the film is you.
Yeah.
And some of these scenes, you've kind of mastered it by now, but are long takes. Uh-huh. So there's so much choreography that has to be done. You have to take off your director hat then and put on
the actor hat.
Yeah. I mean, just tell me about that.
Yeah.
Experience.
So yeah, I had rehearsed it 1,000 times for 3 months before we shot it. So like the script was pretty much done a month before we started shooting, and so I was living in Austin doing pre-production and stuff. But anytime we had downtime when we weren't locking down locations or doing the final casting or any of the innumerable things that come about a month before you start shooting something, I was rehearsing. So I would be in like the Starbucks in the corner while all of my producers were on their laptops doing stuff, talking to myself and acting out the scenes, and then like trying to make sure that I was still the actor and kind of pushing the producer aspect, the director aspect away so that I could transition into acting. But very luckily, I have these 4 or 5 producers who are on set where I was able to transition out about a week before, maybe 3 or 4 days beforehand, and say, I can't produce anymore. I'm gonna have to do this. And then I was just the director actor the whole time. So although I have an American accent, and I was speaking and directing with people in the American accent, I was just able to jump in front of the camera and be this other guy because I'd rehearsed it for 2 months beforehand. It's like Borat or something. You get in, you jump in front of the thing, and then you get the piece that you need, that you've rehearsed 1,000 times, and then you're out of that location. it was very difficult with long takes. It obviously requires a huge amount of rehearsal, and it is a ballet. It's like this thing that you have to orchestrate, and we shoot everything at about a quarter speed. So we'll start out in rehearsal, and it's like I'll walk through and I'm saying the lines, then I'm like, okay, then the camera has to be here, so then this actor is behind the police chief and we want to see him back there. Okay, cool, so you get there, great. And then by this time, and so it's like me directing and like choreographing these 25 people who are on set so that everybody knows what they're doing before we shoot it. And then we shoot at half speed, and then we shoot at like 75 speed, and then we shoot at full speed. And when we shoot at full speed, people don't know what other people's sensibilities of 100% means. So sometimes there's like these happy accidents if somebody shows up too quick, and then you get a genuine reaction of like bumping into somebody, and it's just, it's great fun. And that's how we capture that kind of magic, because although it's very rehearsed, it still has this authenticity because everybody's so nervous that it's not going to go well or that they're going to fuck up. And it's great.
That's interesting to do the half speed, 75% speed. Because it's like going through the whole thing, but you're saving the full thing for when the camera's rolling.
That's right.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Because you can see if you're going to run into any troubles choreography-wise, but you're not wasting that full...
Exactly, the energy. And then also we get to watch playback. So we'll do one, and then we'll say, all right, everybody come watch it. And it's like everybody is invited to Video Village. We all crowd around it. And then you can see when it's working, when it's not. So like if the boom mic is too close in one shot, they go, okay, cool, I'm gonna fix that part. So they know that it has to be a little bit higher. Or if somebody is half in the frame and they should be fully in the frame, I don't even have to turn to them and say, you have to go. They're like, no, I got it. It's like this collaborative experience of workshopping the thing so we all get it. Like everybody on set has value. Everybody's a director or a creator in their own right as actors, and just giving that kind of I don't know, gravitas to everybody. It's a really fun experience. Like it's like a summer camp where I'm the counselor every once in a while, but I'm also just one of the campers. It's great.
And did you develop this style because, of course, you did the Thunder Road short, but then you got commissioned to do these long take shorts, and is that where this whole thing developed, where you kind of mastered this style of...
Yeah, I don't, like, if I had done the Thunder Road short film and then launched it into the feature, it probably wouldn't have been very good, but in the interim we shot 9 other single take short films that vary from 3 minutes to 17 and a half minutes, and it's like, some of the things that we did were so ambitious. There's one of the shorts that we did is called The Robbery, with an actress named Ray Gray, and it's her robbing a convenience store and smoking meth, and the guy behind the counter has a crossbow, and it's like this action scene, like the Hunger Games with comedy and heartfelt drama. And that was so difficult to pull off that we learned so much, and I was like, oh, cool, I think we can expand into a feature. But for 8 months, probably, I was saying that we couldn't turn the short film into a feature because the minutes at the funeral are the most important minutes of that character's life, and everything else is going to be filler. And then I thought about moving the short film to the opening scene, and then the rest of the movie would have to be this like Mike Judge style comedy of trying to get your daughter to like you again. And it was just working for me. And as soon as I realized that was a possibility, I wrote, like 30 ideas for scenes in my reminders app on my iPhone, and then cleaned them up and made them work and organized them, and then I said, yeah, that's a screenplay. And then I went off of that reminders app notes list and wrote the screenplay in about 5 days in my friend's basement.
Wow. I love how you, like, the reminders app is the first step in the process.
Well, it's great because you can also move them. It's like, you can move them up and down. So if you have an idea for a scene, you're like, okay, cool, that's a great idea for a scene, but then this might work earlier in the movie better. So like, I'm actually able to drag them up and down, and then once they're organized, I can actually read through all of it, and I'm like, yeah, that works as a screenplay. And I do that for all my movies now.
So I really don't know the answer to this. Are you an actor who makes movies, or a movie maker who just happens to put himself in the movies? I
think that's it. I think I'm a movie maker that happens to put himself in his movies. Because a lot of my shorts, we made 10 shorts, I only act in 3 of them. And there's all of these other incredible actors who deserved showcases and platforms. more than me for these things. But the only reason I acted in the first place is because it was too difficult to find somebody who could do this stuff, and I was too nervous to line read at that time, and I had actually cast somebody else to be the lead in the Thunder Road short film, and just sending the script and seeing rehearsals and auditions, I realized it was going to take forever for the actor to, he looks a lot more like a cop than me, but for him to realize it was okay to cut himself off mid-sentence, and that would be funny, and also force the audience to be the detective of what was he going to say, and also that that was sufficient. You didn't need to finish the sentence. Everybody knows what he was trying to say. And then I was like, all right, well, let me just try it. I'll figure it out. And then I filmed myself on my iPhone and sent it to the cinematographer and the producer, and they were like, oh no, dude, you have to do it. And by the next week I was growing my mustache out to play the cop. Wow. But no, I love producing, I love directing. I feel that is a revolutionary act to seize the means of production to help out other filmmakers who are trying to make something. If you can make your own movies, you don't have to listen to anybody when they tell you, no, you can't do that. Like, no, you're not allowed to make movies, or you need our permission to make movies. And so it gives me great value to be a producer and a director. And then acting is just, I act in the stuff that I know I can do well in, and that's it.
I was just imagining, like, okay, you win Sundance with that short, and that doesn't mean you're the king of Hollywood. Mm-hmm. But with that kind of short, with that kind of performance, I would just imagine that the rooms that you were being asked to go into and have meetings, half of them would be agents saying, we have a lot of roles that you can go out for. If you can handle that, and you can just capture the whole audience in that performance, and you look like you can be a leading man, so let's get you going. Yeah. I mean, but it doesn't seem like that was something either that you wanted to do or that happened.
No, so I was very lucky. So my brother's fraternity brother through college, a very good friend of mine, is named Joe Austin, and he happened to be at William Morris Endeavor. So he was at WME, the biggest agency in Hollywood, and he put me in touch with cool film agents, and acting agents and TV agents at William Morris. And he's also one of my agents. So I have like a team of 5 or 6 really wonderful agents. But with a short film, they shared it with everybody. They sent me on this tour of 60 different meetings, drove all over Los Angeles, and met everybody, and everybody was very kind, and hey, yeah, we really want to work together, but it never really paid off. But maybe it's too soon to tell. Like, I met some people there, and then now we're in development to make stuff. Like, you don't know. You don't know what the long-lasting effects of those things are. But it wasn't immediate. And actually, the year I won Sundance, we won in January, was the worst financial year that I had. My income was below the poverty line. I think I made something like $25,000 or $22,000 that year. And it was hell. It was very difficult. And I was like, well, what is the value of this thing? Yeah. Because everybody was looking to us. And I think another thing about winning Sundance was, because that happened, people tended to look at us and go, oh, they must be swamped, they must be busy and stuff. And instead, nobody was asking us to do, because of that, nobody was asking us to do anything. But I got to act in The Handmaid's Tale because of it, and I got to act in Casual with Jason Reitman, who had a short in our block at Sundance. That's how I got that. Wow. But no, it's just, you just have to keep making stuff. Like, you can never sit around and daydream that somebody's going to come along and take you seriously. You have to be the one making something. And that's a million things happening in the film industry right now are collaborating to make that the reality. But yeah, no, a lot of people, if you're able to do it yourself, instead of seeing you as somebody to hire, they see you as the competition. And I think that's where the industry is heading, where we all have our own companies, and it's like YouTube or something. Like, we're in this battle for attention or whatever, and so it's very easy for a company or a group of people or an industry to dismiss you, because if they take you seriously, it's a frightening thing for them.
it's so great to see your presence online, so positive, so pulling people up. You know, in fact, I had an experience with your presence. I had to like kind of check myself because I was like, why is he encouraging people to make movies? It's like encouraging the baby, the dying baby bird, you know, feeding the baby. But if they're not healthy enough to do it on their own, why are you encouraging them? You have to be strong to do this. You can't be, if you're encouraging weak people to do things, they're only going to have disappointment. But I realized that you were talking to me.
Yeah.
And I realized that was my own defense mechanism against your positivity to me.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah. Sorry, finish your thought.
No. But the whole thing of you being so transparent about your process with self-distributing this film, and an image that is embedded in my mind is you just took a picture of your computer.
Yeah.
And you said, this is
all you need.
This is all you need. We edited it on this. We're distributing the movie on this. I mean, I wrote it on this.
Yeah.
I edited it on this. I'm distributing the movie on this, and it's a little Apple computer that
in a shitty loft in the middle of nowhere.
Right. And that's a big image. That's an image that's in my mind.
It's demystifying the experience of filmmaking, and that is something that I'm following in the tradition of people like Mark Duplass or Trey Schultz. Trey Schultz was the first person that I met. I listened to Mark, you know, when he said the cavalry isn't coming from Hollywood, you have to do it yourself, and I listened to him, but it scared me. I was frightened to do anything on my own. And I was struggling for 8 years to do anything. I was a producer. I was terrified to make anything. I failed whenever I was making short films. I failed 1,000 fucking times, man. It was hell. Mm-hmm. It was real hell. I was depressed. I hadn't discovered B vitamins. I was like, I seriously, like I drank a Red Bull once and I was like, why am I so happy? This is so strange. And then I looked at the ingredients, like B12, huh, very interesting. But no, seriously, it is fucking brutal, man. Like, everybody has dreams, everybody has aspirations to make stuff, especially if you're an actor, if you have something, an artist, you have to get something out, and you have these dreams of making it, and you just don't know how. And it's like, well, we spent 8 years struggling to get anything that was good, and we were lucky enough to be able to go to film festivals and see these short film programs and see what was culturally significant around the world, and that changed our metronome of what is good short filmmaking, or what is good performance, or what are people liking online, or whatever. And so my job, after seeing Trey Schultz win for Krisha is one of my favorite films of all time. It's like, you know, it won in South by Southwest 2015, and I saw it and met Trey and his team, and they're so lovely. And seeing them succeed, and seeing that film as good as it is, and seeing Trey in flip-flops and a backpack, I think that demystified the filmmaking experience so much for me. It was like, I knew John Cassavetes was making stuff in his backyard, but to really see Trey do it, this like near-peer mentor of mine, of like, this guy like literally wakes up and shoots in a bathrobe, and he can do it. Like, I can't be Steven Spielberg, but I could definitely be that motherfucker. But Trey doesn't have an online presence at all, and so he deeply inspired me to get off the couch and make the Thunder Road short film, and now I want to do that for everybody. I wanted to say it's okay. Like, there's power in numbers. If one filmmaker can see me doing it, I was a fucking nobody before I did this. And then I saw Trey and Krisha, and now I'm here. And I just want to send the ladder back down. I want to pay it forward. I want to continue to do that for everybody. And I do that all the time. People send me their short films. I watch 10 or 15 short films a week. I advise. That's my job now. It's, you know, it's a good feeling.
And this experiment worked with Thunder Road, the feature. I mean, it's already made its money back.
Yeah. More.
And more.
Yeah.
And it hasn't even really hit American theaters so much yet.
No, it hasn't even come out on any streaming platform, yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, so it still feels like somebody's listening to this and saying, okay, bro, but you're really enthusiastic, you're a charismatic dude. I'm an introvert. You know, you can do it. You know, you handed out, like you said, like 1,000 cards at Sundance when you weren't even in the festival. So you're that kind of guy.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to that dude?
Well, so I really wish there was footage of me from 2015 or 2014 or 13 going to these festivals, and I was this little meek field mouse. I was the behind-the-scenes producer of animation. I was like helping Danny Madden do hand-drawn animation, and I was an introvert, and I was terrified, and I knew that shaking hands and, trying to meet people and networking was so uncomfortable for me, and I was terrible at it because I was like, what's the point of this thing? It's so obvious. I'm just trying to get something out of somebody or whatever. And I was like, this is stupid. I fucking hate myself for doing this shit. And I was miserable, and I wasn't good at it. And although I seem like I am this enthusiastic, charismatic dude, I wasn't for years and years and years until I realized it's all bullshit, and if you can just make your own stuff, people will come to you. Or if you can make stuff and put it on Vimeo that people have seen, it's so much easier to be like, oh, you're the person who did this thing. And it's like, yeah, like that you're familiar with me. I don't have to introduce myself. And that, yeah, you don't, what's Robert Downey Jr. say? He says, work so hard that you don't have to introduce yourself. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's no way for me to prove to you that I was this like little introvert and that like now I'm successful. And people always say that. They're like, oh, this is survivor's bias. This is like the person who wins the lottery, and they're like, anybody can do it. But I was one of y'all. Like at 2014 South by Southwest, I got up and spoke about the digital recession where anybody can make movies and put them on YouTube and nobody's going to watch your stuff. And I wrote an article called The Digital Recession. It's on my Medium page. And it talks about all of this stuff about like the horrible depression of making movies and how, the film world tends to sell people like me, like Destin Cretton or Lena Dunham of like, oh yeah, it's like the signs you see on the billboards for casinos of like, Linda won at the Boomtown Casino, come on by, maybe you're next, all that shit. And part of that is true, but really, like, there was no tools that I had. We didn't have any money. Like, we made something in a funeral home in 6 hours with our friends, and because I had rehearsed it for 2 months beforehand, like a fucking maniac, that's the only reason. And now that thing lives on forever. That thing is now on Vimeo. My great-great-grandchildren will be able to see that thing.
Yeah. And that's the key right there. You worked 2 months on that thing. Let's not leave the part out, which is that you've got to do the work. The thing has to be good. If you haven't worked enough to make your thing good, then you got to keep working.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of bullshit of like, yes, so that is crucial. I've been lucky enough to have a good education. I watch 1,000 movies. I know, I was able to watch Short of the Week. Short of the Week has this great channel for South by Southwest short films. Like anything that gets uploaded, or anything that gets uploaded to Vimeo or YouTube that played at Sundance or South by Southwest or Cannes, they have a channel for it, and you can just watch all of this stuff. You don't have to pay, you have to spend $500 on a badge or whatever. You can see all of the stuff online to understand what is doing well on the festival circuit around the world, and that became this great education for me. I became educated from watching this stuff, and it also created this ambition in me to see the stuff that was mediocre and be like, I could do something better than that. And that became the Thunder Road short film. So yeah, part of it is education, but I'm not just speaking to people who are good right now. I'm speaking to everybody. Like, I wasn't good for a long time. Okay. Many people who are listening to this are probably, I was worse off than they are right now. And that kind of degradation that you're always feeling of, oh, I'm not good enough, it's bullshit, and it will handicap you from doing anything good.
Where would you say this feature is in the distribution life now? How much more work has to be done distribution-wise for you before you move on, take off that hat, put on the next hat to make the next movie? I mean, like, what, because you're, like, this is a unique thing here where you're not, there's no middle person going on here. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So when you make a movie, you imagine that you put it out into the universe. That's the thing that the industry sells you, is that you can sell it to a distributor, and then your job is done. You can move on to the next thing. And that's sometimes when filmmakers are working on something for 5 or 6 years, it's an incredible relief to be like, all right, cool, I don't have to think about this anymore. Somebody's gonna do it. But that's just not the case. You still have to do so much stuff if you go with a distributor. So I see no problem with just tracking this thing for the rest of my life. Like, it's just a property I own. Like if I was a building manager,
Yeah.
I'm going to own more buildings. I'm going to continue to build more buildings, but this is something that I can, work on for the rest of my life and, collect on and improve and share and, go to new markets and advertise for. It's just one of the properties that we're able to distribute forever. But after this week, so tonight is the last screening. It's the 16th of October, 2018 right now, and we're screening in Yonkers for this cool presentation that Alamo Drafthouse is putting on for us. And it's the last one that I'm doing on this tour, and I'm flying back to Los Angeles tomorrow to start prep work on the next thing. And I have 2 projects that I'm really, really excited about, and I get to do those, and also kind of return to a sense of normalcy instead of traveling and going to the cinemas and having to be on the road a lot. Like it's a dream to be able to go and meet real people who are affected by this movie and shake hands and hug and hear big laughs in the audience and then get big hugs in the lobby. Now I get to go home and put the film out on the internet. So it's not just about the theatrical audience. Now it's like, okay, now I'm putting this thing out forever on the internet. And it's a bit daunting, but it's nothing I haven't done before. This theatrical thing was new for me, but putting movies online I've been doing for the last couple of years.
And let's just say there may also be people listening that are actors that have decided, because they've hit a wall with their attempts at breaking into this industry, that they need to create their own content. And they may need to team up with a director and a writer, if they can't do it yourself, if they're not talented like you are in those sides, if they know enough about it. But you're leading the way, showing people how that can be done. Like someone might not have the skills of being a director or a writer, they may be a great actor, they hire people to do that, and then they can then turn around at the other end of that and deal with the distribution of their own thing then after that's all done.
Yeah, it's no different from YouTube or something. Like you wouldn't need a middleman to upload a video to YouTube. It's the exact same thing. Like so let's talk about those 2 possibilities here. So let's say you are an aspiring actor and you're listening right now, and you are an actor. I hate that fucking word aspiring. I'm sorry I said that. Let's say you're an actor and you want to have that kind of calling card to build something for yourself that is a vehicle to growth or to a career, like the Thunder Road short film is. There are many ways to do that. There are incredible Facebook groups called I Need a Producer or I Need a Cinematographer, and you can just post wherever you are on the planet and say, hey, I'm here and I need these things. Does anybody know anybody in this area? And they have so many subscribers to those pages that you can find people in your area to help you out. That is invaluable. That is a really great thing. And a lot of the people there will usually come on to help out for not an arm and a leg, so long as the project is good. The thing that I always say to actors is when people write and act and direct, or they try to make something that's a vehicle for themselves, they try to make themselves look really cool. And that is the opposite of what I did, and it was successful. I purposely tried to humiliate myself all the time. And the reaction is audiences going, oh my God, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah.
And that's a great feeling to get from an audience.
Yeah, yes. Jim, I'm really happy you came here. I mean, this was great. I'm excited about the positivity you're putting out, helping people, but I'm excited about what you have next and the groundwork you've laid for your own career, and you've taken the reins on your own career. I really think that this is you're starting something here.
It's the future.
It really feels like the future that I always thought, like, why isn't this happening yet?
Yep.
This should be happening now.
Yep. It's so important. Yeah, like if you can learn how to edit, or if you can get a camera, even if it's an iPhone, and learn how to shoot and put stuff together, you will quickly learn the language of making movies and learn how you speak the language of film. And if you do that, you have seized the means of production, and you don't need anybody to take you seriously. You can do it and put it out into the world yourself, and everybody should, and everybody can. I was working full-time at College Humor, and I had this commute, and I wrote this short film on the commutes there and the commutes home. And look at Kaveh. Kaveh has children. Kaveh has a family, and he's still able to make these crazy, risky web series and capture the world's attention and play at big film festivals. Anybody can do it, and a lot of people will share that kind of a story of like, oh, well, this is the successful people talking, this is survivor's bias. That story of survivor's bias is spread by people who are too timid to do something on their own.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Jim Cummings, will you come back?
Of course I will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of IFP, the Independent Filmmaker Project. It's produced by Spencer Ring. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.